All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Knuckle Dragon Billy Goat review with Mike and Josh. I'm Mike,
And this is Josh.
and today our topic's going to be: Are we truly free in the modern society? Okay, so if you're new to listening to the Knuckle Dragon Billy Goat review, what we do is each week we pick a new topic, research that week, and then we'll talk about it on Sundays like we are today. It's an early Sunday morning, 7 a.m. It's freezing cold out, tons of snow. So the question is, are we truly free in modern society? Um, I don't personally believe that we are. From a very early age, we're put in schools where we're told to raise our hands, not ask questions, stand in line, don't talk back. It almost takes away the free thinking side of the brain, at a very early age. And a lot of studies show that up until the age about 6 or 7, I've seen it both ways, 6 or 7, um, the child's mind operates at a genius level. And it's been shown that that slowly goes away. The more we're in school, the more we're taught what we're supposed to know. You have to get a job when you get out of school. You have to go to college. There's all these things that they tell you have to do, and if you don't, it's almost like you're an outcast outside of society. Once you have your job, your career, you go to work every day, you have to be there at the exact same time. Okay, you only get a certain amount of days off. I mean, everybody's telling you how to live your life, from your school teacher, your principal, your parents, your first job, college professors, politicians. Where does it end? Okay, so again, are we truly free in modern society? Once you're in the workplace, it's you no longer have to worry about the school system, but you have to worry about your manager, the politics inside of your company, the government. So you're paying taxes more. Okay, you're getting regulated out the wazoo. So just real quick, I mean, think about it. The percent of dollar that you actually get is not that high. So let's say you get your first paycheck, okay? That's already taxed federally. State comes out of it, Social Security, medical comes out of it. So you've already been taxed there. If you want to invest it, that's fine. Most employers will allow you to invest some of your money pre-tax, but that's okay because they're going to get you on capital gains when you go to take that out later in life, or they're going to tax you if you take it out early. Um, Say you go to the grocery store, you've got your paycheck, you spend some money at the grocery store, you're paying sales tax. So we get taxed in so many different ways: property tax, I mean, vehicle taxes, sales taxes. I mean, there's literally tax on everything. So once you think about it, I mean, how much of your hard-earned money do you actually get to keep after taxes? And I don't mean what makes it to your bank account, because once you spend it from your bank account, it's taxed again. It's already been taxed from your paycheck, and it's just taxed again. Okay, we can't hunt for free. We can't fish for free. You can't just go get a kayak and go down the river anymore. You got to get a permit. You have to have a guide. I mean, you really can't do much anymore that somebody else has to be involved in. You're kind of hosed there, and that's a big problem for me because I don't feel free in the modern society anymore. And what I really don't like, this is especially what I don't like, is even on your own property nowadays, the government's really trying to sneak in on there and tell you what you can and can't do on your own property now. You can't grow certain things on your property. And I'm not just talking about marijuana or illegal substances. I mean, there's sometimes you can't grow a garden because of where you're at within city limits. Why can't I have a garden? Excuse me. You can't have, if I wanted a chicken, I can't get a chicken. You really have to be in a specific area in the right county to be able to do certain things on your property. And I really think that just sets the precedence for where we're going in the future. More control, more regulation, more restrictions. And I'm not a huge fan of that. Josh, what's your take on all this? Are we free in the modern society?
Absolutely not. You brought up very, very, very good points there, especially moving forward too. If you just looked at the regulation side of all this in the last, let's just say the last 100 years, right? You were talking about having a garden on your property. You live outside of city limits, so you having a garden might be more feasible than me having a garden. More so, the property I own here in town, I have to get a permit to put certain storage on it. I have to have a permit for putting a fence up. I have to call somebody to locate utilities. Now, with that example there, you know what that is? That is a good check and balance almost, but it's not free. Why don't you just give me manifest destiny? If I hit a power line, that's social Darwinism, and I'm gone. But if you just kind of look in the last at least 100 years or so, the regulations for everything is just silly. You know, we've talked about on our pharmaceutical show about how pharmaceuticals were started in a ways, and how sorry, pardon me, and just how the regulation on that became so stringent, and it takes so long to get certain medications out and about to the general public. I think more so what we're focusing on today is more so tax and regulation. You brought up a good point about that dollar we make it work. Figures that I see before is that at least 30 to 40% of our check after everything goes out goes to some entity. It goes to the county, it goes to the state, it goes to the federal government, you know, it goes to Social Security. And that's one that could be a show in itself with the Social Security, Mike, is,
Right.
you know, is that money that we're going to get. So I don't think in the whole paradigm of things we are truly free. And more so the United States too. You know, we always hear, oh, the United States is land of the free and all this. According to one of these indexes that find, you know, how free a country is, out of all the countries in the world, the United States is 20th.
Dang.
20th, and that's probably really subjective too, you know, honestly. And you know, we figure freedom of speech is a really high priority here in the United States, which it is, but we're only ranked 5th in that. So are we really free? That is a question. I mean, there's so many caveats on that, but I think just for the direction that we wanted to focus the show, no. Oh, sorry. I lied to you. I lied to you here. This actually I didn't so much.
How dare you?
I know. Oh my goodness, lying. I didn't say freedom of speech. I got some numbers mixed up here, but the freedom of press, United States ranks 41st. 41st, Michael.
Wow.
41st out of, let's just say, we'll say 200 countries. There's probably some countries that don't have newspapers because it's hard to manufacture paper, I guess. But
Right.
I just don't get it. You know, none of us, and it reminds me of an old song that none of us are free. Always somebody getting up on you. But why regulations? Let's talk about one, Mike, that I always see is, you know, people getting all butthurt about is rainwater, collecting rainwater. Why is that such a big deal that you know of? I mean, you're taking rain, you're putting it into a bucket or falling into the bucket by chance. You know, you can't go to the rainwater pipeline and tap a spigot off. I mean, I don't understand that. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I never really understood that either, because the way I see it is, if so for me, okay, and I know this doesn't apply to every state, right? So I think only a couple states did the whole no rainwater deal, and I think it was only during like high droughts, heavy droughts. But still, okay, if you're not located over an aquifer, or your runoff doesn't supply some other water source, then I don't see what it matters. Like, how could you collecting rainwater at your house affect anything? Okay. And it's not like, and I don't believe this to be true, so if I'm wrong, correct me, but if you collect rainwater, it's not like that water is taken from the earth. I mean, when you use it, it goes back into the cycle of evaporation, turning into perspiration, coming down as rain. I mean, it absorbs
Yeah,
through the earth.
exactly. You're exactly right. I mean,
The,
it,
the
it's
cycle
being
never
used.
ends.
No, it never does. You know, it becomes ice, becomes this, becomes that. But what I'm reading here, Mike, is that check this out. They call it diverting water. Like you brought up the good point of
Yeah.
this is. I mean, it's just comical. Like, I'm diverting water. Like, I know when it's going to rain, right? So I'm going to sit here and just take that water, and I'm going to be greedy on it, and I'm going to put, you know, my own regulations and controls on it. I mean, in a far out way, would you think that almost the government's like, hey, you can't take rainwater because we want it and we want to we, we want to use this and make a profit. But they fall under the premise of protection of the environment. That's I can understand, Mike.
Yeah, that's
Like
silly.
I know. I can understand. Like, let's say you go to a lake, right?
Yeah.
And you take a pump truck or whatever, and you pump out water. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I could. You're definitely diverting water for other uses than it's intended for, and you're taking away from the general cycle on that. But you don't control the fucking rain.
Yeah.
You don't control the rain. Well, I mean, really.
Yeah, I see a huge problem with the government stepping in and saying they're going to try and regulate Mother Nature. I mean, how can somebody put a regulation on something that happens so natural? I mean, you couldn't stop or start it if you wanted. I mean, it is Mother Nature. So how do we get a regulation on that? Okay, I mean, the same principle applies to trying to get a permit just because I want to ride my kayak down the creek or down the river. I mean, why you can't control Mother Nature. I mean, that river's been there for 100 million years or 100,000, however long it's been there. But now all of a sudden I have to have a permit to ride my kayak down it. I understand individual responsibility, and what they're trying to do is say, okay, you can't ride down there for a couple different reasons. One being personal safety. Well, you said it right there. It's personal safety. I don't care. If I'm taking the risk to go down there, it's obviously my own personal risk. Okay, so it doesn't affect anybody else. So I don't understand the regulation for that aspect. The second one is trash, an environmental thing. So they don't want people leaving their trash around. Well, so I do see that as a problem. But again, we are personally responsible for that. And I hope they catch whoever is littering and they fine them, or, jail time, whatever it's got to be for them to not litter anymore. Okay, forced education like they do with bad drivers. You don't get your license back until you take this course. Maybe do that for people who litter. I don't know, but I think it's slightly ridiculous that I would have to get a permit to get a kayak and float down the river. Okay. And I'm not talking about white rapid crazy things. I'm just a regular river. You know what I mean? It's the same thing in lakes in certain counties. You got to get a permit to take your kayak out on the lake. I mean, somebody's always dipping into your pocket for something silly. You ever run into that, man?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, you have these state parks and federal parks, federal land. And I'll go on my federal land spiel here. Federal land was put out by Roosevelt back in the 30s, for the public to enjoy. It was a bastion of get people out, let people see federal land, and it's great. But you go to a
Yeah.
federal park and you want to camp somewhere, guess what you're paying? You're paying camp fees. You go to a state park. And I remember this used to just baffle me in Texas. I go to a state park, I had to pay $5 to get into the park, right?
Right.
If I wanted to camp, like backpack camp, I'm not talking like pull my trailer in. I'm talking like pull up my pup tent. I'm hiked in 30 minutes or so into an area. Well, that was $10, right? Per day.
Oh my gosh.
Per day. To freak this isn't the Riviera. You brought up a good point though. Have you seen with this government shutdown, I hate to kind of go down this road, but at a Joshua Tree National Park in California, supposedly these folks have been cutting down the historic trees. So it's kind of like you brought up with the person that goes out on the lake or is on the
Right.
creek and litters. We should take some sort of responsibility on that. But I saw the argument with the trees and whatnot is that, well, this is what a libertarian view looks like on society. And I'm like, oh, Jesus,
Well,
what do you think about that? I mean, are we
well,
really responsible for ourselves? I mean,
yeah, we are. So I'm actually glad you brought that up because I had talked to somebody on Facebook about it, and maybe that's why you brought it up. Did you see that conversation I had with a couple people on our friend's Facebook page? I don't want to say any names.
yes, I did, Mike.
So for everybody out there, this is what happened. Okay, basically they posted an article on Facebook that said the headline was Joshua Tree, sacred tree cut down during government shutdown. Only 8 officers were on the entire site at the time due to shutdown. So basically, this article is against the government shutdown, obviously, or they wouldn't have put that big heading in there. Okay. So I read this article. This article didn't say how many park patrolmen or officers are normally on duty. So it just says there was only 8 during the shutdown. Well, it doesn't say how many there normally are. Maybe there's normally 9. Maybe there's always 8. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not this huge. Maybe, they're insinuating that there could be potentially hundreds and that this time there was only 8 because of the shutdown. You don't know the actual number. So, it wasn't anywhere in the article. So it's kind of biased there. Okay. It doesn't give you all the information. It just kind of gives you that one little detail and you're like, what?
Yeah, like,
So,
that's how people get the media isn't around to spread news. It is to do you remember being a kid and being in the checkout line and there's the magazines of like I think it was the Inquirer or the Daily Inquirer or something, the black and white one to be like, oh, we found aliens in Paris, Illinois or Newburgh, Indiana, and here's the pictures of
yeah.
that's essentially what it is. And
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. But people are
Neither do I.
generally pigs. People are generally fucking pigs, man. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but we can't get into a modern society without some sort of rules and regulations, which that we just can't. There has to be some sort of dumbing down because we have to go to the lowest common denominator on a lot of these situations here. They can't blame trees being cut down because of lack of security personnel at a park. There's no park ranger here, so people are out here with their chainsaws. I mean, get fucked. That isn't.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
know what I
yes,
mean?
yes, and no. I mean, I just Michael, why?
Well, so here's the problem, okay? I'm going to go back to this article because there's some other things that this article left out, okay? It doesn't state how many trees are normally cut down when the government's not shut down. So it makes you think that, oh my God, this sacred tree was cut down during the shutdown and it leaves out the rest. So you think that normally no trees are cut down. Well, anyway, I looked it up. So it was like 3,500 crimes happen at Joshua Tree each year. Okay. And for some reason, this one's reported as during the government shutdown. You don't hear anything about Joshua Tree literally ever. Okay.
No.
Nobody cares. But because the government shut down and clearly this article had an agenda, they wanted to state that there was only 8 officers and this sacred Joshua Tree got cut down. And thanks a lot, Trump. But it
Yeah.
left out so much detail that was just very misleading. So, and I got the comment hit at me that, oh, here's the libertarianism or whatever. Look, I don't identify as a liberal or anything. I have my own personal opinion. And sorry that I had free thought and looked at the article and went, there's a lot of info missing here.
What? You actually did the research?
I know, right?
That's what kills me is that I will sit there and talk to anybody about stuff, but once they start to say, well, it's just this because of, you're on A team or B team or C team. And that's what killed me. It's like, well, this is why libertarianism won't work. I'm like, why? Because people are shitbags. And, and the whole view on that is, yes, you do have certain freedoms, but whenever you go over the bounds of the law there, it doesn't give you the right to just throw trash out and
Right.
about. And did you see some of these articles here where there's like, oh, these national parks, there's a bunch of trash out and about? Well, those are because of people that don't come to these parks, or it's staged. As much as I hate to say it, it's staged because I like being outdoors and I've been to national parks and I've been to state parks. I used to go to a state park in Texas a couple times a month. I'd ride my bike. I would go camp out, but everything I brought in, I took out. Everything.
100%. And you know what? I bet you're teaching that to your kids too. So when your kids grow up,
Oh yeah.
they're not
That's what
doing that.
no, we used to go out and I say, okay, let's pick up all of our stuff. It's like being at home, pick up your room. Eh, I really hate to think it's an agenda, Mike, but I think you're onto something to be quite honest. It's
Yeah.
just, well, oh gosh, there's trash in a trash can. Okay, what about the other trash cans? Did they
Yeah.
consolidate all the trash into this? That's what gets me nowadays is that we see stuff on the TV, on the computer, on the internets, on the Facebook webs,
Yeah. And
whatever
I mean,
place
and
you're looking at media.
if you're not educated and you're not willing to look, and this is the problem, okay, going back to schools, like I spoke about in the beginning, schools teach you very, very early on to believe what you're told. And that is a huge problem with me. And I have a lot of talks with the kids about this. And I know we're getting a little bit off topic. We're going to bring this back to regulation, I promise. But I mean, at a very early age, kids are taught to just believe what they're told. Okay. The teachers tell them something, a higher authority, right? and you're supposed to believe it. Don't ask questions. But I mean, you've got to be a critical thinker when the media is no longer a news source; they're an entertainment media. Okay, you've got to really look into stuff because it's fishy, it's sly. Okay, it's not. They're being very misleading with that type of stuff. And sorry to the friends that I commented on Facebook that I was, thought outside of the box for a moment. I kind of got a little hated for a moment on that, but geez. Now, coming back to regulation, I wanted to read this because we already talked about it. This is about rainwater collecting. And in 2012, a man in Oregon was sentenced to 30 days in jail for collecting rainwater on his property. It was from his own pond. Okay. So 30 days in jail in 2012 for collecting his own water from his own pond on his own property. That's what I'm talking about right there. That is such government overreach. I can understand if the pond or lake was on state property or federal property, but you own that property, which to me means you own everything. I don't want to say above it, but you do to a certain extent. But you own
But
everything below it. If rain hits your land, take it. I don't
yeah.
care if a duck lands on your land and you want to eat it. Eat the duck. Okay, that's on
Well,
your
what if you
property.
find oil on your land?
Right, right. Who,
Yeah,
who owns
I
that?
find gold. I find gold. Possession's 9/10 of the law, and I think what you're talking about, eminent domain, that's the only way I could see the government going against this rainwater thing instead of saying, "Oh, it's to protect the environment." Blah 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 blah. It's not that. They're claiming eminent domain, which they do in a lot of these situations here, and it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. 30 days for collecting rain on your own land. For why? Did they say anything about why he was cited for? Just because he broke the law?
Let me see here. I got it up really quick. Let's see. Um, okay. In the state of Oregon, the government owns the rain, and if you have to have a special permit, I'm sorry, and you have to have a special permit to collect and hold it. Other states have laws against rain barrels, which is a huge plastic barrel, usually with an attached filter that's used to collect rainwater and then water their gardens. So that's something that Sarah and I,
So just because
yeah,
you use an intermediary for the rainwater, you
yeah.
use it to. Yeah. But if I let the rainwater fall on my land, that's fine. But if I have the rainwater fall on my land and it happens to get into a bucket that to get on my land and it's filtered, I'm going to jail.
Yeah, so I may be
God.
going, yeah, I may be going a little bit too deep on this, but I have a theory behind that. Okay, I don't think it actually has to do with anything environmental. Okay, I think the public water industry recognized that more people were using rainwater instead of city water. Okay, and it was starting to become an issue. And I don't mean this was like a lot of people, but so I run a Facebook page, the Central Illinois Homesteaders, and I know a lot of people on there that do collect rainwater and buy the thousands of gallons. Okay, they have entire roof gutter systems on their house that feed these underground tanks and above ground tanks, and they use that water primarily. This is a huge issue for the public water system. One, because you don't have to pay money on it, you're not paying taxes on it. Okay, you can get completely off city water. And I think too many people started doing it, that they had to nip it in the bud far too soon. And
Uh,
I
But
think
but
this is a
but
money
Mike,
game.
I mean, even if it's 10% of the population that collects rainwater, and that's probably a pretty generous stat, the price of water is cheap. It's cheap. Look at your water bill, how much water you run a month. I run a shit ton of water at my house in a residential district, and I might pay $40 a month. Might. My sewer is a
Yeah,
lot higher. My sewer bill's a lot higher, obviously, but that's because my poop has to go through a process to become clean. you know, I just,
right.
but I kind of see what you're saying there is that the the water industry is seeing this as a well, something, something, something. There has to be a means to a lot of this. I mean, I'm not going to put a 5,000 gallon water tank in back of my yard here. I couldn't put it here. Now, if I had more land,
Right.
maybe I do something like that. But the only other thing I could think, because checking this, kind of going through my head here, thinking a little bit, is that collecting rainwater for storage in a barrel,
Hmm.
possibly Legionnaire's disease. You know what I'm saying? Your
Yeah.
water's stagnant. You have stagnant water. You use it for public consumption. You're drinking it or something, and you get Legionnaire's disease. And even that's a far fetch. That is a very, very far fetch.
Well, what if I hit you with a conspiracy here? Maybe the reason they
Oh,
yeah, you ready? Conspiracy time. And I'm not going to go
yeah.
on this too hard because I don't really believe it, but
Yeah,
there is
go
a,
ahead,
there
man.
is a, there is a theory. What if the reason we can't collect rainwater is because they know it doesn't have fluoride in it?
You know what? It's funny you say that. I was thinking that in the beginning whenever you went on the water spiel a little bit, but I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to see if you brought it up in conversation here, and you did. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
You know me too well.
Yeah, quite possibly, Mike. Quite possibly. I don't have enough evidence to dissuade me
Right.
into thinking it, or to persuade me in it. I'd be kind of on the fence on that, and that'd kind of be an interesting study to look at as well. But the regulations, and it's funny that you brought up school earlier, probably just a couple minutes back.
Yeah.
Talking about school and how that's regulated. I mean, even with the Common Core standards they bring in, there's certain standards for you to graduate school. There's certain tests that you have to take per state to graduate school to say that you're a competent school taker.
I know, right?
You're competent at doing schoolwork, and that's fine. And it gives you the opportunity to research a lot of things, but the critical thinking, like you're talking about, you're talking about genius level cognitive functioning is around 6 to 7 years old or so, and then it kind of diminishes after that. And I can definitely remember a time that I was 8 or 9 years old, and I used to read like books just about random shit, and then I'd have a test on a country, and I'd be like, oh, I read a book here that this is this, and the teacher would be like, well, you're right, but to stick to the information that we give you to use. And it degrades a lot of the stuff. The kids, why are they regulated to learn certain things? Because we push them out of a system. The regulation is there to bring them into a system, take tax dollars from their education for X amount of years, and then put them out to the quote unquote real world, where they either A, get a job, B, go to college, or C, I don't know, live off mommy and daddy, I guess. But then there's regulations after that. There's regulations that I have to keep a kid on healthcare till they're 26, or they can be on my healthcare till they're 26. There's regulations that we talked about. I mean, even with one of our last conversations, there's regulations on how and when you can die.
Oh yeah, that's really frustrating.
Our Death with Dignity Act that we talked about, the euthanasia. I mean, there's so many regulations out here. And to me, the only reason there's so many regulations, it's not for safety. It's not for convenience.
Yeah.
It's money. It's money, hands down.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit you with a new one, okay? And this one's going to hit home, okay? This is pretty pathetic. You ready? So, what about lemonade stands? Have you heard about those getting hemmed up?
Oh my God, yes. How would you do that? Why? Okay, and I'm gonna have one that's gonna hit even closer to home. Girl Scout stands. What if I set up a Girl Scout stand? And we have done this years ago when we lived in Amarillo. We were on a busy road, and the little townhouse we lived in, there was a nice corner where people would come down and things like that. And we set up a cookie stand, and we sold boxes of cookies. I waved a sign and I danced and did silly shit so people would stop and buy cookies. But can you imagine you have to have a permit to sell lemonade?
Yeah.
I mean, why?
Well, so this is what they say. Okay. And you know what? This goes out to whoever is calling out lemonade stands. Like what working professional adult walks by a lemonade stand and goes, hey, you need to stop doing that. Let's go talk to your parents. Okay. So first off, they're saying that they count as a business and you need a permit for the business. You also need professional equipment because you're selling to the general public. Okay. And you need a stand that's up to local code. So you can't just have like a little table or like a makeshift plywood building. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So there's apparently there's numerous stories about this happening. Okay. But there was one that really stands out. Okay. So it looks like her name was Annabelle Lockwood of California. She was told she needed $3,500 of professional restaurant equipment and a permit to continue running her lemonade stand.
Are you serious?
Yep. They made her stop, but this has a happy ending. So they set up a GoFundMe, and they got the 3,500 fairly quick, and she kept going on with her lemonade stand. It was just that popular, you know. But for a child, that's got to be mind blowing. It's just one of those school moments where you raise your hand, you go, "Hey, this actually doesn't sound right," and they go, "Shut up and listen." You know, you're told what to do, you're told what to know, what to listen, not to ask questions. I
But but
I think
how?
this is, I don't know, man. I just think this is really, really upsetting to a kid. You know, you're talking maybe, I don't know how old this Annabelle was. Maybe
I mean, he
10,
can't. Yeah, 10 years
10.
old. She couldn't be more than 18. So we'll just say 17 and under.
Yeah, I mean, way to kill the entrepreneur out of that. You know,
Oh, but you're teaching her a lesson that she needs to have permits and needs to have this and that and this professional
yeah,
equipment. You know what I would have did with that professional equipment? I would have took that $3,500, and I wish I would have known who voted me in. You know, told me to the police, sold me down the river per se, and I would
right.
have just bought gummy bags of dicks, as many as I could, for at least $500. I'm keeping 3 grand, but I'm sending this guy $500. But it's funny you say that. You're killing the entrepreneurial spirit behind it. It's a kid putting water and freaking lemonade powder in a jug, mixing it together, and selling it. What's the difference between that and me giving somebody a bottle of water, or
I have
me
no
giving
idea.
somebody a coffee? What if I set a coffee stand up here and
I
I'm
don't
brewing
know.
coffee? Oh no, is the Newburgh Police Department going to come and, like, am I going to be on cops or something? I mean,
I would say that that's possible. No one is free, okay? I mean, if they can see a way to make a buck, they're gonna do it, okay? I mean, look at fishing. Look
oh
at the
god, yes.
you know, all the hunting regulations you have to have. Okay, now I can understand safety regulations,
Oh,
but
most definitely.
you know, and I can also understand wanting to conserve the population by giving out a certain amount of tags. Okay, so like deer tags or whatever elk tags. You know, okay, I mean, they don't want to kill off the entire population.
Right,
So
obviously not.
I understand that. But if you look at the amount of money that goes in there in the lottery systems, it's kind of, I mean, do they have to charge that much? I don't think they do. They could really lower the prices there and still do a good job. But I don't like that I have to get one to fish on my own property. Okay. If I already get
What?
caught, yeah, if I already get caught
On your own
fishing,
property?
yeah, man.
Get out of here.
I also live right next to a creek. If I get caught down at the creek, like catching a turtle to eat or something like that. I mean, so my neighbor's actually the sheriff in town.
Oh
And
boy.
yeah, and I caught a turtle one time. And I mean, a huge one of those big, crazy snapping turtles, the ones that you like eat. You know, they're huge. Something you see on TV where their
Yeah, yeah,
heads are
yeah.
the size of your fist. And I brought it up to the house. You know, it's in the freezer now, but he came over one day and I was telling him about it, and he was like, "Well, it's not turtle season." I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's not turtles." I was like, "There's a turtle season?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Actually, there's a season for that, and they're not in right now." He goes, "Do you have a permit?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." You have to have a permit, and and it's got to be turtle season, dude. I could not believe I didn't get in any trouble, luckily, because he's a nice guy, and I honestly didn't know, and I mean I wouldn't do it again, but um, they have seasons for everything.
Oh
Got
yeah. Yeah.
turtle season.
Squirrel season, where you can
Oh
hunt
my
squirrels.
gosh.
Squirrels,
Rabbit
rabbit,
season,
rabbit
molt
season.
season.
Now, see, I remember back home, if it was on your property, you had basically carte blanche on a lot of it. You know, you could take things. You know, if you had to harvest a deer, you harvested a deer. You know, you could fish on your own land. I mean, that's
Right.
this. It's so crazy at the microcosm that we live in, and the microscope that we live under is that on your own land, you can't even do what you want to do. And we're not even talking like bad things. You know, you're not sitting there like cooking up meth. You know, you're not sitting there.
Oh yeah.
You're not sitting there like making explosives or anything like that. You are on your own land with what you pay taxes on, what you paid for. You paid your
Yeah.
penance to it, but you can't sit there and fish on your own pond without a fishing permit. I mean, the redundancy behind that is just mind boggling. So, Mike, kind of moving forward on this, okay, we have these regulations and stuff now. What are some that you kind of see coming into the future that are particularly, let's just say, may come into effect or maybe just very negative?
Oh man. Well, I I would hate to see this happen, but they're already coming onto your property with regulations on property that you own. So when I say own, I mean they even apply when you outright own your home. Okay. Your loan is gone. You've paid it off. Okay. You still have to pay property taxes, which I think is silly because if you own the home and you no longer pay property taxes, like if you just stop paying it, they'll just take your house. So you're never free. Okay. If you can't not do something without them taking your stuff. But I could see them bringing more regulation into the home. Okay. And I mean, I know that's probably sounds kind of extreme, but it's not. I mean, think about it. How long did it take them to slowly put regulations of what you can do inside of your car? Now, I'm not exactly against the regulation inside of your car. You know, like I don't think people should smoke with a kid in the car. And
Right, right.
but but also I'd like to think the other side of that too is that's their kid, that's their choice, and if they want to do that, and I understand the child doesn't have any say in it, but you're kind of overreaching there, and that's a little bit of a gray line for me. No, it's still bad, and I'm not going to do it. But I mean, the same thing with seatbelts. You have to
Right.
wear a seatbelt. You can't text and drive. And I think they're looking at so the seatbelt thing. If you don't want to wear a seatbelt, don't wear one. I don't care. That doesn't affect anybody else. The whole
No.
texting thing that affects more people than
Oh
yourself.
yeah, that texting shit's dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then actually, I guess in that aspect, so I can stay on my own track here now that I'm talking about it. I would have to say that the regulation with children is the same to a certain point because the child doesn't have a say. So you are actually affecting somebody else with your smoking.
Right.
Um, but but yeah, the seatbelt thing, I think that's kind of silly. I also think that the music level is silly. You can only have your music so loud in your car, or you could be pulled over and get fined. So I
What
get
about lights? What about the lights? You know, you can't have certain color lights. I think here they messed with like blue LED lights or something. I don't know, some sort of headlamps, but you can't have certain headlamps.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And those, okay, so look, personally, those lights are super bright and I hate seeing them come in my face. But even though I hate it, I don't think there should be a law that says, hey, if you have these lights, you're going to get a ticket.
You're going to get a ticket because we just have to find things to regulate. Uh, with the kids, I kind of disagree with you on that. With the parent smoking in the vehicle, a lot of the things, you know, if I'm the supreme lawmaker, the moral authority, as you say, you know, for me, for laws and regulations to be in place, there has to be first a harm principle behind it, and b the ability to get out of a situation like that, or the ability to change it. Children lack both of those. So, in a way, you know, I know you don't smoke in your car. You don't smoke at all. You don't smoke in your car with the kids or the dog or anybody like that. And you shouldn't, and people
Right.
shouldn't. Now, if you're at home and you want to teach your kids, you know, poor sportsmanship and things like that, you have the ability to, but that's almost in a different realm. And it's funny with the regulations too. Did you see about in California where they're talking about taxing text? This is really getting into your home. I
Oh,
bet your
I did see that.
I bet your phone's like 3 feet from you. My phone's like right behind me right now. It is charging, but you're getting taxed for text. How?
Oh, I tell you what. I tell you what. I'll tell you this right now.
I'm gonna
If that
tell you what.
Yeah, so two things. One is I agree with you about the child thing. After I talked about it, I do agree with you that should be a law. Okay. So just so we're on the same page, I agree with you. You shouldn't be allowed to smoke with a kid in the car because they don't have any say. Secondly, on the texts, the moment, and I mean the moment they pass that, I will personally never text again. I will not text. I'll go back to calling you on the phone. And if they start texting mobile phone calls, guess what? I'm buying a landline because I'm not dealing with it. And I don't care about my phone enough to be taxed on it. And I wish I could get away from gasoline because the gas tax is silly. I mean, it's freaking silly.
What about
So,
biodiesel?
um, so I, I would do biodiesel if I had the means to do that. And currently I don't. I don't think I have the time and I don't think I have the resources to create my own biodiesel. The setup cost originally is kind of expensive.
Kind of
Um,
astronomical in a ways, isn't it?
yeah, it could. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I'm going to guess 5 to 10,000 up front just to get the equipment, and then I'm going to just guess here that you have to swap out the injectors on your diesel and probably some other things like the pump and
Oh
whatnot.
yeah.
But no, I'm totally for that. If I can, if it's legal for me to make biodiesel, I would absolutely do that. But yeah, as far as California trying to come out and say they're going to potentially tax text messages, I mean, they are so silly. And I mean, California is on a whole new level. And I wanted to touch on
Yeah, no
California.
shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about this. Okay, we talked about taxes in the beginning of this podcast, but
Uh-huh.
I wanted to mention then, and I didn't, but overtime in California, and I dealt with this. I've dealt with this a lot with overtime in California.
Didn't you work? You worked as a contractor for a while after the service out there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yep.
Okay.
And in California, it takes 40% of your overtime right off the
Right.
top.
Right off the top. Wow.
Right off 40% of your overtime. So I mean, you can work as much as you want. They're getting almost half. They're going to take half almost. Okay, 40%. That that was very upsetting, and it really deterred people from wanting to do overtime. I remember them asking, who wants overtime? Well, nobody does. They would rather take a day off. So people were trading overtime with just taking a day off later in the week.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, if you're coming out money ahead for the effort put in on that, 40%. I mean, how is that even legal?
Yeah, you shouldn't even call it overtime at that point. You're pretty much working at your regular rate.
Yeah, or actually a little bit less than.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, holy cow, 40 freaking percent. And then what? You have other regulations out there too. We lived in California for quite some time. You lived out there quite a bit longer than me, but you remember some of like the silly regulations that they had. You had to take your vehicle to get smogged. We got to check the smog here, but we have forests burning down and all that smoke. It's like billions of times more than all the cars in California. But hey, you got to take your car in, and if it doesn't get right, you got to go take it to somebody that's legally licensed to work on your exhaust system, and you're putting money down this way and money down this way. I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah.
really.
They're really choking out the middle class when they're doing that. I mean, the middle class and the lower class, if I'm looking at a three-tiered system, low, middle, high, or upper, you don't the lower and middle class, I mean, they don't have the money to upkeep some of those emission systems. I mean, if something goes wrong on your vehicle that's related to emissions, first off, the troubleshooting cost could potentially be in the thousands. Okay, when you're looking at $85 to $100+ an hour, okay, just to troubleshoot. That's not even parts yet. That's not even labor yet. That's just troubleshooting costs. Okay, so when California wants to come out and say like you have to have a catalytic converter, you have to have this type of CO2 level coming out of your exhaust and whatnot, some people just can't keep up with that. And the second you're not registered, you can't get your new smog and your registration, you have illegal drivers. There's nothing you could do about it. Well, I have to get to work still, because if you don't go to work, you're going to get fired. And then obviously the government's not going to work with you. Your lender's not going to work with you. You're going to lose your house
Yeah, they're
and
gonna be
so
like, "Oh,
on.
why can't you afford this?" It comes into a cycle, and it almost comes to
Yeah.
me into like a. I love it. I think I'm gonna make a goal for myself to bring this up like almost every podcast, even if it doesn't work anyways. But we're talking more so Marxist conflict theory, social conflict theory here, is that we have just a certain system, and it doesn't matter black, white, yellow, purple. If you're purple, I want to see it because that's hot. But we just have a certain, like you talked about, we're talking about this trifecta. I was going to say triarchy. I don't know if that's even a word, but if it isn't, it sounds legit. But we have these levels of income prosperity, and the only ones that are certainly free and from what we have seen anyways are the ones with money. And we're talking exorbitant amounts of money. Let's say me and you, this will put it in perspective a little bit. Let's say me and you or we drive drunk, something like that, and we kill somebody. Okay.
Okay. That's messed up, but okay.
Yeah, let's just go there. And I'm super rich, dude. I'm super rich, and you're, Joe Schmo, you're middle class or whatever.
Right.
You're going to jail for a lot longer than me. I might be able to get out of it. I might not have any charges at all. And if I do get charged anyways, I might be able to plea out. I might be out of jail in a couple of years, and I might pay a criminal fee and I might pay a civil fee. But you know what? It's going to be better than you because you're going to be taking hot dicks in the throat in prison
Oh no.
for prison for 15 to life. Yeah, it just comes down to money, and I hate to. Sorry about the crude reference there, fans, but I think I was off a movie actually. But just the regulations behind it. Just going with that, if you have the money to take care of it, and it's kind of what you're coming back to. Mine was a little bit of an extreme example.
Yeah, it's okay.
Here you go. I think here's when we talk regulations and laws and all that, and I always think about some of these strange laws that we have in our country or around the world, really. So I pulled up a website here, and it's funny. It's called bestlifeonline.com, and it's weird laws around the world, right?
Okay.
And I'm sitting here looking through it, and one of them was you could get fined in Scotland 200 pounds sterling for being drunk on a cow.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Another one was you could. Oh, nice. In Utah, let's see here. You can't spit on somebody. You can't drop blood on them, and you can't throw shit at them.
What?
Yes.
Well,
I mean,
let's do this, Josh. Let's do this for a minute, since you've got
yeah.
you've got a page up, and I've got a page up as well of some of these weird laws and things and regulations. So let's go one for one, man. You spit one out, I'll spit one out, and maybe we'll discuss about which ones come up as a hot topic. How about that?
Hot topic. Here's one that hits local to home here, and it's pretty local to you. On this list here, it says kissing someone in Indiana while having a mustache, and it says, and I quote, any law that contains the sentence "mustaches are illegal if the bearer has a tendency to habitually kiss other humans" is a legal document you probably don't want to mess with. Beards, on the other hand, don't seem to be a problem.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how some of these get put into place. Okay. Here's one I've got here, and this is a federal law. Okay, it's a federal crime to injure a government-owned lamp. So if you were to go into a federal building and mess up their lamp, you can get fined and potential prison time for messing up someone's lamp. Yep.
Yes.
Now I understand some of these you're probably never going to get fined on or never going to get anything put into place on you, but it is still a law. Somebody could potentially do that, just like the lemonade stand. Nobody would have ever thought somebody would stoop so low to hit up a child for a business license. Same goes for a lamp. I mean, that's pretty petty, but I'm going to assume it has happened, which is why there's a law.
Well, that's why there's a law on anything, Mike, is that it's happened before and it is socially inept and maladaptive, for lack of better terms, that the people are like, we have to make a law against this. There has to be a law against this. Now, tell me the reasoning in this law here. You could be charged $1,000 Australian, which I don't know what the conversion is on that. I think it's pretty much one for one. If you crush a can of beer between your boobs.
Is that true?
It's on the internet. It has to be true. It seems a little fake, but
that is weird.
Yeah, you can't crush them between your boobs, but
well, so here's one that I think is pretty disgusting, and I wish more people would speak out about it, because a lot of people complain and cry about the ocean's ecosystem eroding and how, we're dumping garbage in there, and everybody cries about the ocean. Okay, so check this out. It's illegal to dump raw sewage in the ocean. Okay, we already know that. You shouldn't do that. It's illegal unless, okay, there's an unless to this. There's a but. You're allowed to get a permit from the government that allows you to dump raw sewage in the ocean. So as long as you have a permit, it's totally cool.
So the piece of paper makes it, good or not good.
Yeah, that's like saying you're stupid because you don't have a diploma from college. Like you don't have a degree.
Wow. That is special. Hey, oh, nice. Hey, here's another Indiana one, right? This comes from South Bend, and it looks like this might be one of their favorite ones. It says in 1924, when a chimpanzee in South Bend was found guilty for smoking a cigarette and was fined $5, the monkey, or probably the owner, paid the fine, and jail time was avoided for the wheezing chimp. There hasn't been another incident of smoking monkeys in Indiana since. Is that a coincidence?
Oh my gosh.
Oh God, kill me now.
Indiana sucks.
Dude, it's terrible. It's terrible.
All right,
I,
so parts of Florida require you. Okay, so it's not like a if you want to. Okay, it's an enforced requirement that you recycle with fines up to $1,000 for a violation. Okay, so people may go, oh, whatever. Okay, they're wanting you to recycle, go green. But the problem with that, okay, and I'm all for recycling, going green, whatever you want to do. But it's when the government instills their own morals or their own I guess their own ideas on someone else and enforces it,
uh,
that's a problem for me. I think everybody can agree that going green is okay,
right.
but I think there's a huge misconception of a recycle bin and going green. Okay, that's just because you're putting it in a blue bin and they're telling you it's being recycled, that doesn't actually tell you that how they're refining it and melting it back down or doing the way that they're, I guess, recycling it may actually produce more carbon emission than if you were to just put it in a landfill. Okay, so there's kind of like a you don't really know and they don't really tell you. But like plastics and glass, when you refine that, I mean, you're putting out far more emissions again than it would be if you just put it in a landfill and let it deteriorate over 100,000 years.
Right. Dig a hole and just let it ride. Well, that's the same here with like metal scraps and stuff like that. I do work at this company that doesn't refine aluminum. What should I say? We process it and essentially melt scrap. And a lot of
Right.
our marketing is scrap that we use, but we're burning off scrap and we're giving off just these ungodly, nasty gases into the environment. But we're green because we're recycling. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, Mike.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. And I don't, I think people just like hearing the term recycle. Like it makes them think like, oh my gosh, we're saving the planet or something like that. But I think the term recycling and going green is I want to say political word. Those
Right.
are political words that they use as like our party is going to go green or we're pushing for this huge green agenda and global warming's a problem. That I mean they make these buzzwords or but that doesn't mean just because you're recycling it, that doesn't mean it's lowering any greenhouse gases. It doesn't mean that it's a more efficient process. It just means you're using the same substance and not creating more. You're using an original one. So, or I guess not original, but you're reusing a product, melting it down, making something else out of it. Okay. You're just reusing that same product. It doesn't do anything.
No. No, it absolutely doesn't. And it takes more energy, to melt this. You're making heat. So that's obviously a chemical reaction there.
Right.
And you're doing all these other things. Well, and then you go to a landfill. And here's what's funny, they have these recycling bins. And I think ours are through like waste management here in Newburgh, anyways. And they're like, okay, well, you can, put glasses and stuff in here. All right, cool. But it has to be a certain glass. Well, what's the difference? Well, we know we don't recycle this, and the cardboard has to be a certain cardboard, and the plastic has to be a certain plastic. Well,
Oh,
isn't
wow.
a plastic? Well, yeah, but there's certain stuff, and then we get letters from them saying, well, not just us in particular, but more so everybody uses them. Well, don't put milk caps in here, but you can put the milk jug, or just to use an example. And the regulations on that, I guess, to kind of bring this home for us, regulations do have their point. Taxes do have a point. However, the overall
Yeah.
scheme of it and to our personal freedom and free and within a society, that is very subjective. Very, very, very subjective. Now,
Wow.
if we live in North Korea compared to the United States, yeah, we're pretty free in the United States compared to North Korea. You know,
Yeah.
we're not doing this or that. Now, are we free compared to Canada and Australia or an ally of ours? Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, if you come down even to the lowest level into individual freedoms, I don't necessarily think we're free. We're not free at all. And you brought up good points about, let's just say you're on your land, you operate a farm, a ranch, um, agricultural area. But,
Right.
for you to have land to water your plants, or sorry, to you to have water to water your plants, the rain, you could take the rain, but God forbid you put it in a barrel, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, really.
Yeah, let me switch this over to some taxes really quick.
Yeah, I like Texas.
Okay, so I
Not.
I know, right? So there's a couple silly taxes that have been out there for a number of years that probably should go away or maybe aren't moral or ethical. One that's just off the top of my head is there's a lot of lenders out there that put high taxes on early payouts. So, like, if you were to pay your house off really, really fast, there's a penalty for that, and maybe that's not a tax. That's more of a penalty, but still,
Well,
they're
it's some sort of regulation behind it. I mean, you pay it off early, which you decrease your interest on it. Well, you're decreasing their interest on it and saving you money at the time. However, that's not good with them, so they're going to get their money either way.
right, right, exactly. So that's really, really frustrating that they're going to penalize you for doing something good for yourself. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So another one here, it was enacted in 1995. It's called the illegal drug tax. This applies to the United States. So it says Tennessee joined 23 other U.S. states on the 1st of January 2005 when they imposed a tax for possession of illegal drugs. So it's not that they're fining you, there's a tax, okay? So it says those who bought drugs had 48 hours during which to approach the Department of Revenue and pay taxes on it. They levied the tax per gram, okay? They would measure this out. So per gram, okay, so check this out. It's $3.50 for marijuana, okay, per gram. That's the taxes you pay on marijuana. And this is in 95, so it's not legal, okay? They're saying on illegal drug sales, you have to pay tax, okay? $50 for a gram of cocaine and $200 for meth and crack cocaine, okay? So this is wild. It says the department did not ask for identification and revenue employees were not allowed to report people who paid this tax. So basically they're saying we want you to pay taxes on your drugs and we're not going to ask any questions about it. You can do this discreetly. Don't worry about it. We just want you to pay taxes on your illegal drugs. What do you think about that?
And people were coming in there paying it. That is amazing. Like, how dumb are people? Okay, I'd be like, well, yeah, I got a pound of marijuana at the house. Let me go down to the revenue office and just tell them I got it. That's like
Yeah.
self-reporting. Why didn't they arrest these people when they came down there to pay for their drugs? Now, see, I could understand on the back end of this, right? Let's say they come
Mm-hmm.
to my house and they arrest me and I have, illicit drugs here, and they weigh all that out, and then that is a fine levied against me in a situation like that. I can understand that.
Oh,
I don't think
yeah.
it's necessarily right, but I can understand it. But I'm gonna go down to my tax office, be like, yeah, guys, hey, I got a dime bag and a gram of meth, and here you go. Let me just pay that. You can't tell. Holy cow, people are stupid, Mike. People are
Oh,
dumb.
oh, absolutely. And I mean, so I'm not, just so everybody's clear here. I know we got a lot of listeners out there, but I don't want to sound like the huge anti-tax man, okay? I'm not against taxes. What I'm against is taxes on top of taxes on top of taxes, okay? I don't like that my paycheck is taxed and then it's taxed when I invest it. It's then taxed on any gains I get from my own personal investment. I took all the risk. They're still getting the reward.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't like that I have property tax after my house is paid off. I can understand paying that while I'm, I guess, renting it to own or have a lease or lien or, whatever. I don't like that once you own something, you don't actually own it. They continue to make you pay property tax just for owning your own property. Do you ever truly own your own property? No, you don't. There's not a single person in the United States that owns their property. If you did, you wouldn't have to pay property tax. Okay, so if you stop paying your taxes, they're going to take your house and they're going to sell it for whatever you owe. Okay, that's not freedom. That is not free. Okay, there used to be a time back in the Wild West. Okay, you claim stake to your land. This is my land. Okay, you see my little twang. This is my land
No,
here.
no, 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 no.
You'll never take it from me, okay? But now now they can, okay? If you don't pay your taxes, they're going to take your stuff. It's being done by force, okay? If you don't pay your taxes on your car, okay, you can't get insurance, you can't get registration. They're going to end up taking your vehicle, okay? There's so many things wrong with the amount of taxes we have, okay? And then on top of all the other taxes, we have sales tax. And then whatever you purchase, if it's not sales tax, they're getting you with another tax, okay? I saw one man, I wish I could remember what it was. It was some silly thing I saw on my grocery receipt. I went and got groceries. There was a tax on there for like shopping at the store or something like that, like using a public area to shop. It was so
Well,
weird.
that's what they tax you for going to a restaurant, and they tax you for carry out of a restaurant.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Isn't that great? And it's funny you talk about Illinois here. That I just kind of going through some things here, but in the state of Illinois, there's a candy tax, right? And the definition of candy per the state of Illinois is candy. It excludes the definition of candy excludes that use of flour as the ingredient, right? So if there's flour in it, it's not a candy. So Whoppers, for example, the nasty malt tasting things.
Hey, they're
That's
not
not.
nasty.
I know they're good. I love it.
They're so good.
I'm trying to, dude. I make milkshakes with those. Are great. But because there's flour in it, it's not taxed. However, Swedish fish are taxed. But
Oh
why?
my gosh.
But why? But why?
I don't
it
know.
just
Well, look at Alabama, okay? Alabama has a card tax, okay? They charge 10% tax for a deck of playing cards. This is just a normal deck of playing cards. You want to play like some crazy eights or something. There's a 10% tax on that. Okay? So if people don't know what a tax is on like an item like that, that is, the company makes it, they sell it to whoever's going to distribute it. The distributor sets their own price. The government adds 10 cents onto whatever they do. Okay.
holy cow.
So whatever you sell it for, the government is adding their own 10 cents that they get to themselves. That right there is a problem. Okay. That's a problem for me. I'm not a fan of that. Okay. Let's see. West Virginia has a glowworm tax. Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
West Virginia imposes a 6% tax on glowworms. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, trick noisemakers and sparklers.
So no Husker do's or Husker don'ts?
You're telling me you don't have any Husker do's or Husker don'ts? He's like, no, I've got snakes and sparklers.
Yeah. All right. So you're telling me you don't have any whistling bunghole chasers? And hey, looking up here, it's funny. I was looking through these taxes that you're showing. In 2007, that direct tax you were talking about in the state of Tennessee made $1.5 million. However,
wait. People are actually doing it?
Well, they did up until 2009. The Tennessee Supreme Court found that the crack tax, as it was called, was unconstitutional, and repealed it. So, in 2007, they made $1.5 million. And I would assume they made pretty close to the same in 2008. But in 2009, the crack tax was cracked out. Get it?
So you're telling me they found the crack tax to be unethical and they had to get rid of it, but the Alabama 10-cent playing card freaking tax is okay?
Yeah, I guess so. Yep. Let's see here. Card deck, 10 cents extra. How would you think about it? You know what? That's small potatoes, man.
No way.
10 cents, small potatoes. Hey, here you go. We both have tattoos.
Not if you're a casino.
Dude, check this out. We both have tattoos, right?
Yeah.
So in Arkansas has a 6% tax on tattoos. Even if you want to be patriotic and bring joy to Uncle Sam by getting an American flag, you still got to give that money up, son.
Wow.
6% on whatever else tax.
Oh, there's a tethered balloon tax in Kansas.
Oh, yes, dude. I'm just looking at that. We have to be on the same page. Which one are you on? Are you on like desertnews.com or something like that?
No, this one's called the American Party USA.
Oh yeah, I figured it'd be some hokey pokey stuff like that. Let's see what else we got. But I think the premise of our talk today, Mike, kind of to wrap it up, anyways, the premise of our talk is that regulations and taxes in a modern society, while needed at times, are just they're just
Overreached.
they're yeah, exactly. I mean, cell phone. The original premise of a cell phone was to have free and open communications while you pay your service provider a certain amount of money, right?
Yeah, it got too big though. Government's got to get their hand in the cookie jar.
Too big, too fast. Too big, too fast. And that's the same with gasoline, cigarette taxes. In Indiana, they're bringing a box of cigarettes. The taxes on it are going to be up to $2. Taxes on it.
Oh yeah. Well, look what they're trying to do with the internet. Okay, I mean, I really believe people have been pushing this for a long time, and they want to tax data usage through the service provider. So if you're downloading a bunch of stuff or just using the internet in general, they want to tax you per data usage, and that is messed up. That should never happen. I hope that never happens. That is a slippery slope.
And like the net neutrality stuff, or am I thinking of something else?
I don't actually know if it was involved in net neutrality. I tried to stay away from that because it was such a soft spot. I think I don't know. I didn't really look a whole lot into it, so I'm not super educated on it. But I do know that the government has been trying to, and when I say government, I mean lobbyists, politicians, everybody not within your own best interest. They're trying to tax internet usage, and that's a big problem for me. But let's see here. If we're wanting to close this out here, do you have any final thoughts here on the taxes, regulations, and if we are actually free in the modern society today?
Taxes bad, regulations mostly bad. No, we're not free. And it's funny what you bring up with the internet as well. Why are we taxing the internet? There is so much information and so much good that the internet brings. You have people that live in BFE, Alaska, that have internet. So they are able to watch YouTube, go to certain classes. They could get their college degree living in a freaking igloo in Alaska. And we want to sit here and charge these people for the data that they use. I mean, we want a dumb society. That's what a lot of these regulations are. It was exactly what you were talking about in the beginning, is that we sit here and pigeonhole, I guess, for the lack of terms, we pigeonhole people into, you have to do this a certain way, and if you don't, you're dumb, and yada, 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 yada.
Yep.
And it's not that way. If I'm an elephant and you tell me that for me to be smart, I have to climb a tree, that isn't going to happen.
Oh yeah. And
to use the terms like that.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, the only reason I can think of that they would want to tax the internet is because they don't want the lower and middle class to be educated. That's it.
Definitely.
What's a better way to push people out of the information circle than to start taxing what they use to get their information? They understand less people are going to college. They understand less people are going to the library and reading books. They now have free access to the World Wide Web, where they can learn, read, educate themselves, understand where the government's going, things that they didn't know before that weren't publicly out there so openly. Okay, they can now learn, educate, push back on the government. No, we don't like these laws, because now I can read up on it and understand where I'm coming from. But my final thoughts here are, I don't think we're truly free. I think some regulations are important. I think some taxes are, I don't know, I'm on the fence with taxes, because if you don't pay your taxes, you pretty much get put in jail. So I feel like it's slightly theft to a point. Okay, I understand.
Are you saying taxation's theft?
I'm not saying that.
No, dude, I'm just stirring the pot.
No,
I get it a little bit.
No, you're fine. I get it, but
baby.
Some of it is theft. Okay,
I mean, obviously is. We can. It sounds like a new podcast that we can definitely do about just taxes in general, and if we believe that taxation is theft.
Oh yeah. Well, it sounds like after talking to you today, I mean, you and I have pretty similar viewpoints on, are we actually free in the modern society today?
And I can't believe that we have such similar views on this.
Oh, I know, because you're usually way more wrong.
Yeah, I know. And you're usually like way more right. And I'm usually way more left. Well, that's funny. I guess we're going to have stuff like that. But Mike, I appreciate your time today. And for all the listeners at the Knuckle Dragon Billy Goat Review, you can follow us on iTunes under our name. SoundCloud, we have it as well if you'd like to listen. And also just visit our page on Facebook at the Knuckle Dragon Billy Goat Review. And you can leave any questions, comments, or concerns. Maybe you guys have some show ideas, or maybe you guys agree or disagree with what Mike and I had to discuss this morning. But either way, Michael, appreciate the time, brother. Thank you very much. Until next week.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, man.